The Rossi RP63, a new offering from Rossi, may fulfill the need for a small revolver for carry. Chambered in the most all-around caliber, the .357 Magnum, the Rossi RP63 is one potent petite package. But is it the right package for you? On the other hand, we have the Taurus 856 Defender. This offering from Taurus is relatively the same size as the Rossi RP63, but is chambered only for .38 Special and .38 Special Plus P ammunition. Some would say that they need something more powerful than the .38 Special Plus P ammunition. Regardless, firing .357 Magnum or .38 Special Plus P out of a small frame revolver can be an interesting experience, to say the least. So, today, I am going to compare two small frame revolvers with their respective loadings and let you draw your own conclusions. Stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you all about them, starting with some basic specifications. While marketing hype provides some insight into a product, let's take a look at the specifications of the RP63. Well, what can be said about a revolver that is somewhere in between a small frame and medium frame that weighs in at about 28 ounces loaded with .357 Magnum ammunition? There is actually plenty to be said about the Rossi RP63 that sets it apart from other small frame to medium frame .357 Magnum revolvers. So, let me get to it. First of all, its small size does belie the fact that it does, indeed, fire .357 Magnum ammunition, and of course, .38 Special and .38 Special Plus P. The matte stainless steel finish throughout the revolver is excellent. There are, of course, similarities between the Rossi and Taurus line of revolvers of this size. The Taurus Model 605 comes to mind with its .357 Magnum chambering, but I really need to let the Rossi RP63 stand on its own merits, and there are many. In the current Rossi line, the 6-inch barreled RP66 would be a close cousin, but the RP63 is intended for concealed carry with its 3-inch barrel that I feel, incidentally, is a very nice trade-off between a 2-inch snub-nose revolver and a 4-inch duty revolver. And speaking of that 3-inch stainless steel barrel, it is nicely formed at the muzzle end for smooth insertion into a holster. The front sight is a small ramp type that is pinned and can be replaced. The left side of the barrel is devoid of marking, while the serial number is the only marking found on the right side of the barrel. A full underlug protects the ejector rod and keeps it well within the barrel assembly until you need it not to. The bottom of the underlug, or barrel shroud as it is also referred to, you will find out just what caliber handgun you are working with, .357 Magnum. The rear sight is a type common to these small frame revolvers, a simple notch cut into the backstrap in which to locate the front sight, which can be a challenge against a dark target. Dropping down to the cylinder, 6 rounds of .357 Magnum can be loaded into each chamber, which does set this one apart from the Taurus Model 605 with its 5-shot cylinder. The cylinder locks up tightly with very little side play and virtually no end-to-end play. The RP63 locks in 3 places, at the rear, at the bottom with the locking lug, and at the crane with a spring-loaded locking lug. The cylinder of the RP63 is well secured within the frame. The cylinder to forcing cone gap, or flash gap, measured out at around 0.02 of an inch. Releasing the cylinder is by pressing the cylinder latch forward, not down and not back, or at the crane, as with Dan Wesson revolvers. Just below the cylinder latch, you will find Taurus Armas made in Brazil etched into the frame. Well, Taurus had to have credit placed somewhere. On the frame just below the cylinder, you will find the manufacturer, distributor, serial number, and model number. Just to the rear of the cylinder on the right side is the Rossi logo. In December of 1997, Brastek International LC was created as the exclusive importer of Rossi firearms into North America. Then, Rossi firearms were distributed by Inner Arms of Alexandria, Virginia. Bainbridge, Georgia is now the distribution point for Rossi firearms, with its classic rifles still manufactured in a plant in Brazil, and will continue operations there. Rossi is now manufactured under contract with Taurus. Anyway, moving on and downward to the trigger, we find a double-action, single-action trigger with an operational pull weight of 9 pounds of 13.6 ounces in double action, and a 1 pound, 2.8 ounces in single action. Of course, this is with a new trigger, and I expect some reduction in trigger pull weight as the revolver breaks in. While the trigger pull weight may seem heavy for both double and single action, the wide and smooth face of the trigger makes trigger pull weight seems lighter when shooting. As expected, there is no stacking in double action mode, and a staging point is very easy to find when you take the time to find it. Let's shift our focus to the hammer for just a bit. The hammer is a squared-off, nicely contoured unit that is highly textured for gripping with the thumb, for cocking and decocking of the revolver. Unlike revolvers with a transfer bar safety and internal firing pin in the frame, the firing pin is mounted on the hammer and can be replaced if necessary. Many folks like the hammer-mounted firing pin over an internal firing pin. The RP, rather than a transfer bar safety, has a hammer block safety that effectively blocks the hammer unless the trigger is pulled. And to quickly explain the difference between a transfer bar and a hammer block, consider that a transfer bar, by design and in name, transfers the energy generated from the hammer to the firing pin, indenting the primer and firing the cartridge in the chamber aligned with the barrel of a revolver. The transfer bar can only be in position to transfer the energy of the hammer to the firing pin if the trigger is fully depressed. A hammer block accomplishes the same thing but differently, and that the hammer block mechanically prevents the hammer from contacting the firing pin unless the trigger is fully pulled. One thing to note is that, unlike Taurus revolvers that have a key lock safety on the hammer of the RP63 is void of one. Thank you, Rossi. Let's roll the hammer back to the grip. I must admit that I like this round but mildly textured rubber grip. It fits into my hand rather nicely, and the finger grooves seem to capture the fingers that are not pulling the trigger pretty well. I can actually get 3 fingers on this grip. The grip is nicely cut away on the left side to accommodate loading and unloading, and should work well with a speed loader. 6-round speed strips work very well. The grip ends nicely just behind the trigger guard, which helps to get as high as a hold on the revolver as possible. I also like that the grip covers the backstrap rather than leaving it exposed. That helps to cushion the felt recoil from the .357 Magnum just a tad. The right side of the grip is nicely relieved to allow the trigger finger to find its way onto the trigger. The grip is held onto the RP63 with a single screw, and the Rossi logo adorns each side of the grip. The Taurus 856 Defender has a lot of things going for it. This Taurus 856 Defender incorporates a tritium night sight with a bright orange outline. This sure makes picking up that front sight very easy in darkened conditions, and it does not seem to wash out in bright sunlight. The rear sight remains as a simple notch cut into the frame. Considered as a combat sight, it is adequate for the purpose of this revolver. Self-defense at relatively close distances. Beyond that, is left to the expertise of the operator. The 856 Defender is finished with tungsten Cerakote. According to my research, Cerakote tungsten is a dark graphite gray with silver metallic. Cerakote H series coatings are durable, corrosion resistant, and provide unparalleled levels of hardness and adhesion. These coatings are also resistant to most solvents and chemicals. The foundation for Cerakote H series coatings is a unique ceramic technology that imparts both flexibility and excellent wear resistance to the final coating. The result is a smooth but yet pebbled-looking finish that sets it apart from other revolvers in this line, and is quite appealing to the eye. I want to say how impressed I am with the tungsten Cerakote finish, so I will. I am impressed with the tungsten Cerakote finish. I was not expecting the deep gunmetal gray, but a lighter gray. With the trigger, hammer, ejection rod, and black hardware, coupled with the dark walnut finger groove grips, this is one great-looking revolver. It should be obvious that the Taurus 856 Defender is a double-action, single-action revolver, and the hammer spur is substantial for cocking or decocking. There are pros and cons to double-action versus single-action operation. If you are looking for a self-defense weapon, the double-action revolver is considered the better option because they're faster to fire, and if you can get past a long trigger pull, are still incredibly accurate. I would reserve single-action operation to the range. Using the single-action operation in a self-defense situation can have legal ramifications that you want to avoid. You would be surprised at how fast you can operate a revolver in double action once you are used to it. The grip of the 856 Defender allows the use of a speed loader, and the HKS 10-A works well with this revolver, as there is plenty of clearance to use a speed loader, at least the HKS speed loader. The Safariland speed loader will not work with the 856 Defender, at least with this model. More about speed loaders later. The grip of the 856 Defender is slim in girth with the open backstrap, but the finger grooves provide a good grip and also a hook point when drawing the revolver from a holster. Having the hand properly oriented on the grip when drawing from a holster is an important factor in a self-defense situation, where speed is of the essence, getting on target. Accuracy comes next. We'll see about accuracy during the range segment. The round butt of the grip also aids in concealing the defender, but I did feel that another ½ inch of grip length would better fit my hand. In your hand, they may be just right. Stated in the specification of the 856 Defender is that the ejection rod of the 856 Defender has been lengthened to ensure positive ejection of spent shells. However, expended shells, once ejected using a proper hand slap method, may hang up on the edge of the grip with the ejector at full ejection, but fall free when the ejector rod moves forward. Also, as noted in the specifications, the unloaded weight of the 856 Defender is 24 ounces. The cylinder locks up tightly when the trigger reaches the staging point or when the hammer is pulled into single action operation. There is the usual lateral free play, but no end-to-end free play. The cylinder to forcing cone gap, otherwise known as the flash gap, is between 7 and 8 thousandths of an inch. The 856 Defender has chamfered chambers to assist in loading. The cylinder, as stated, locks up solidly. A forward push of the cylinder latch does its duty well. The cylinder lockup is via a plunger and detent system. A detent is milled into the frame, which mates with a plunger installed in the yoke. Single action trigger pull with 3 pounds 9.7 ounces with a 5 pull average. Double action weight is a consistent and somewhat surprising 11 3/4 pounds, as measured with my Wheeler Professional Digital Trigger Pull Gauge. The double action trigger pull, while heavy, is smooth and engaging the staging point is quite easy if you take the time to find it. After staging, there is a bit of creep until the hammer falls. This is also true in single action mode. Trigger creep is not that much, but it is noticeable. As mentioned, the hammer spur is wide, serrated, and has enough surface area for cocking or decocking the revolver. Imagine my surprise when I unboxed the 856 Defender and discovered another front sight. A plain black ramped front sight that could replace the Trijicon front sight, should I decide to do so, but won't. Additionally, there was a roll pin. For what, I asked myself. Looking at the parts diagram, I realized that it was an alignment pin for a grip. Now why would Taurus provide a pin for a grip that I don't have? Well, I did have a grip. A rubber boot grip was hiding beneath the cardboard inset in the box. Stupid me had not even lifted the inset to even see if anything was beneath it. Should I decide to change the wooden grip handles for a rubber boot grip, which I won't, one comes with the Defender. Is Taurus on the ball or what? Bringing a brand new firearm to the range is always interesting, to say the least. Today, while not an exhaustive test, I'll run 3 types of ammunition: 38 Special, 38 Special plus P, and a handful of 357 Magnum, just to see how well the RP63 does with light and heavy loadings. For the most part, I don't expect any issues, except with the operator. So, let's see how we do. Although the 856 Defender is plus P rated, that comes with a caveat. That is from Taurus. And here it is. I am shooting Armscore 158 grain full metal jacket today, and I expect a bit of recoil and muzzle flash, but not as much as would be with 125 grain plus P ammunition that I would carry for defensive purposes. I am just taking it easy today to see what the 856 Defender and I are capable of. Compared to the Taurus 856 Defender, the Rossi RP63 is the larger of the two, with the Taurus 856 Defender in the small frame class of revolvers, according to Taurus. But the Rossi RP63 is smaller than the Taurus Model 66, that according to Taurus is a medium frame revolver. Makes you wonder just where the Rossi RP63 falls in. Well, I guess that places it somewhere in the middle. The Rossi RP63 is a handy little revolver, given the fact that it can chamber 6 rounds of 38 Special, 38 Special plus P, and 357 Magnum. The Rossi RP63 is, in fact, more comparable in size to the ever-popular Ruger SP101, sans the 6-round cylinder versus the 5-round cylinder of the SP101. Also, there is a MSRP difference of around $414, given that the price tag of the Ruger SP101 with a 3-inch barrel is currently at $919 versus $461 of the Rossi RP63. For most, the decision is heavily weighted to the Rossi RP63 side for the cost of ownership. The Rossi RP63 feels good in the hand with this 3-inch barrel and handled well at the range. I will say that the Rossi RP63 does not have the trigger staging characteristics of the Ruger SP101 or Taurus 856 Defender, Model 66, or a good Smith & Wesson revolver for that matter. But if staging a trigger is not important to you, then the trigger of the Rossi RP63 will do just fine for self-defense or home defense needs. Overall, I am impressed with the Rossi RP63 and would recommend it, with one caveat. Use 38 Special for range practice and 38 Special plus P for carry. Forego the 357 Magnum unless you really want to punish your hand and the revolver with these high-pressure loads. Just because a revolver is 357 Magnum rated does not mean that 357 Magnum ammunition needs to be fired. Whether in a good hip holster, IWB or not, or in a good shoulder rig, the Rossi RP63 would be a viable companion to have with you in your time of need. I carried it for a day in a fanny pack with no issues. In my personal opinion, the Taurus 856 Defender would make an excellent first choice for a defensive revolver, and would make an excellent choice for those who would like to expand their current 38 Special revolver collection. There are 19 models of the 1856 to choose from, and you might prefer the Hogue rubber finger groove grips to the hardwood grips of this model, or even G10 grips, or an 856 Toro that is optic ready. If you feel that the 38 Special Plus B is a good cartridge for self or home defense, perhaps you should check out the Taurus 856 line of revolvers. And speaking of checking out, I believe that it's time for me to check out and wrap up this chapter of the Range Ronin Chronicles. More gun and gear reviews are in the mill, so stay tuned to the channel that, I am proud to say, is like no other. Until we meet again, and surely we will.
Don't call me Shirley.
Stay safe out there.